Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to take a minute and welcome you to the Donut Shop podcast. I had a suggestion from somebody who watches the show and thought it was a good idea. I'm always open to suggestions about the show. And he mentioned that I never usually introduce myself or at least tell you about who I am. And with adding new fans or new viewers all the time, it might be a good idea to go over that. So, my name is Justin. I've been a police officer for 20 years. I'm actually getting ready for retirement. I'm going to retire and start doing this podcasting stuff full time. During my career, I've worked on road patrol. I've been a crisis negotiator. Did that for about 8 years. It was great training. Learned a lot about mental health and working with people. I was a school resource officer. I worked in the elementary school and then in the high school. I did that for 6.5 years. Then I also moved into the community resource unit and public information officer unit. So I did a lot of community engagement. I ran our social media for the department. And then I also spoke with the news. Kind of leads into this, even though I was a podcaster before I was in that unit. I've been doing podcasting since about 2012. I started with a soccer podcast with some friends for a local soccer team. We had a great time. It was a little different than this, obviously, but I was on the mic and doing that kind of stuff. Then eventually in 2020, started this podcast with a friend of mine, Nick, and he's no longer on the show, but the show drives on, and here we go. Basically, it's a cop sitting in a donut shop, and someone interesting walks in. They don't always have to be law enforcement based. As a law enforcement officer, we know when we're in uniform, pretty much everybody comes up and talks to us. Especially when we're trying to take a break and eat dinner or eat a lunch or something like that. It's not usually a bother, and sometimes you get interesting stories out of it. So that's kind of where I created the premise for this podcast and what it is today. Now let's get into the episode.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Donut Shop podcast, where we sit down with people who've seen conflict from every angle and aren't afraid to talk about it honestly. Today's guest, and of course, I did not go over your last name, but it's Morgan Larette, I believe.
Hey, you nailed it.
Yeah. All right. Pretty easy. Air Force Security Forces veteran, Blackwater contractor, a journalist, national security writer, an expert on private military contractors and modern conflict. Morgan has written extensively about war zones, U.S. contract involvement overseas, and the uncomfortable realities of how force is used, regulated, and sometimes exploited. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the differences between police de-escalation training here at home and the mindset of private military contractors overseas, where the rules, accountability, and consequences look differently. We'll talk about accountability, mindset, media narratives, what happens when violence becomes policy, and business. So let's get into it. What's up, Morgan? How's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me on. Your thing said that there was 12 donuts available, so dude, I'm in.
Yeah, I sent them through Uber, so you'll get a knock on the door eventually, and then they'll
right in the
show up.
middle of it.
Yeah, we'll take a quick break and come back full frosting face with donuts. But you're out in Arizona, right?
I am out in Arizona, so everybody else is like freezing to death in the
Yeah.
Midwest, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was 73 today. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I went golfing.
You and I are on those two ends of the giant storm that's like ruining everything. I'm down in South Florida and you're in Arizona, and everywhere else, well, except for California, but everywhere else is getting annihilated with snow. I'm watching everybody because like SHOT Show was kind of out that way last week, and I'm watching people who are like on social media bitching. This one guy was like, American Airlines, you need to do better. And I want to go, did you look out the window, bro? Like, I'm pretty sure American Airlines did not intend on canceling your flight like 6 times. I think it's the fact that there's planes crashing in the snow, and it's kind of not cool to do that with a passenger airplane. So
yeah, and I mean, before I came back to Arizona, I lived in Boston, and we had like 3 nor'easters over winter, and I was like, nope, I'm done with that. You don't have to shovel sunshine. Get me back to Arizona.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I see that I think they're getting ready to get hit by one coming up in a couple days. Um it, and my wife's like she's been talking about moving, but she's from Southern California and then she's lived in Florida. So it's like, babe, like where else do you want, like I don't know where else we can go cuz like coming a little north, we're not really going to, I don't think either of us are going to enjoy life if we go any further out of Florida or up north of Central Florida or or go out west, to
Dude, you
California. I
just
don't
go
think we're gonna
big.
enjoy it.
Just go to Michigan. Just do it.
Oh
Just
yeah, yeah.
like don't
Mm,
don't try to find something in the middle. Be like, look, if we're gonna do this, it's straight misery. Montana, I don't know, one of those places
yeah.
close.
Oh yeah. I have cousins in Bozeman, Montana, and they were telling me about how it was so cold, like that their house was creaking, and it makes sounds when it's like negative, when it's like below zero, that it just makes like weird sounds and stuff. And it's like, fuck, dude. Like
Those are the
I
ghosts.
just
We know those
Yeah,
are ghosts.
probably that too. But yeah, no, well, I mean, it was been like 40 and 50 in the morning when I take the dogs out in the morning, and I'm like, this is great, and I long for it usually, but like, can we just get back up to like 65, 70? So, yeah, I'm bitching, but you know, so so like you started out, I was watching some other podcasts and you were talking about Air Force security forces. I know a lot of police officers that jump over and do that on the reserve side, and they'll be police officer by day and Air Force security forces by weekend. So you were basically like law enforcement in the military, right?
Well, that's what they tell you when you join, but most of security forces is literally staring at planes and protecting like the perimeter of the base, making sure like a tank isn't coming through the front gate. So that's in
Yeah,
the fine print that you don't read when you sign your contract. Because
yeah.
when I was in high school, my dad is like he was like the worst. Like he was always arrested. He was one of those guys, and I was like, maybe I
Oh
just want
wow.
to be the opposite of this dude, right? Maybe I just
Yeah,
want
for
to go
sure.
be a cop. So when I was
Yeah,
getting out of high school, you can't become a cop until you're 21 for the most part. So I was like, I'll join the Air National Guard. I'll do security forces, get that police training, and then that'll help me like when I want to get into the academy. So in this grand scheme of things, I thought I was going to be a cop. And I'll tell you what happened with those weekend warriors. Those guys were like the most surly humans I had ever met in my life.
yeah.
So we're gonna go out to lunch or we're gonna go out and have dinner afterwards, and they're like, "That guy's on drugs. That guy's got 7 pounds of meth in his exhaust pipe." That like they were just like the way that they saw the world was very jaded, and I was like, "Dude,
So
I don't
you're
know."
saying the guys that were cops by the weekdays and then were
Yeah,
weekend warriors and coming to be Air Force. Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You're getting and then you just think like those guys don't take off
right.
because if they want to go do it in the military while still doing it as a civilian, law enforcement, it's like, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, dude, I can't. I don't know if I could be in that job because A, I'm already pretty pessimistic, and B, like I just didn't want to look at everybody and be like, what are they up to?
Yeah.
So and then we got activated after September 11th, so I didn't even have to worry about it. I turned 21 on active duty. When it went to Oman for deployment, went into Iraq during the ground offensive, which is that's the worst, man. Like the full mob
Yeah.
gear, the whole chemical gear that they make you put on. It's got to be a lot like the riot stuff that you're seeing in
Right.
Minneapolis, where they got the mass. I remember this. We were in Kuwait and they shot a scud into Kuwait, and me and my buddy like put our masks on and we're running as fast as we can to a bunker, and you just can't breathe in that stuff. I was like, dude, at this point, just hit me with the mustard gas. Like this is the
Yeah.
most miserable thing I've ever done anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the ground offensive, and then by the time I got done on my 2 years of active duty, I was like, well, what do you do now? So I started going back to college, and then Blackwater called, and I was like, let's go make some money. Let's get our adventure on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just to go back to those suits, I mean, I've done I was on the mobile field force for law enforcement and we had a couple, you know, prep deployments for things like cuz I'm in Florida, so we had the Trayvon Martin release of the jury when that was happening. So I'm down in Broward County, so we kind of had like split the county in half and we were sitting in arena where the Panthers play, basically standing by to cover like the north part of the county. And and when it was, they were like, all right, it's going to be 30 minutes before the jury comes out, like, get ready. So we went down in the garage and we're like stacking up, turtling up, getting all the stuff ready. I was a grenadier, so we had the pepper ball guns and the foam and all that kind of stuff. And I think one of us, sergeant, somebody popped off a pepper ball, and there's like no circulation in the garage. So we were all just, should have just put the masks on, but we
Well,
actually tested it out. But we were just idiots. Thankfully, nothing popped off. We didn't have to deploy, but it was so it was big and fake, basically, because South Florida, for the most part, doesn't care about anything except for going to the beach and having a good time. But
and if it's 40 degrees when you're walking your dog, they bitch about that. But other than that, like,
yeah. No, well, then the girls get to bring their Uggs out and stuff, and get rock that outfit that they only get to rock like 3 days a year or whatever. So yeah, I mean, pretty cool. And then so with Blackwater, we were talking on the phone, texting a bit, and I told you like that I knew Jimmy Watson and hearing some of his stories and stuff, because you were in those early class days, the kind of beginnings of Blackwater time, right? I mean, so from what I've heard, just a pretty crazy like recruitment scenario, and then just go get it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was like flying a plane and trying to build it at the same time. And that's normal for any kind of company, right? You get this growth trajectory. They call it like the hockey stick growth trajectory. And you end up just trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do. And you're just holding on for dear life. So Blackwater went from having one contract with Paul Bremer to having the State Department contract, where it was like 500 people. And then it expanded to 650 and 7. And it ended up just getting bigger and bigger. And Blackwater was just like, how do we staff this? There's not 1,000 Navy SEALs that are just waiting for jobs. I know, look, I've been to San Diego. I know everybody I met at the bar was a Navy SEAL, but like in real life, there's just not that many people that are just sitting around waiting and being like, oh, I don't have a job. Let's do this thing. So when I got in, it was all word of mouth. It was like, go over there. My buddy went over there first, and they literally they had this old trailer outside. And they walked into the trailer and they were like, hey, who's got anybody else that they think's good in the pocket? And they're like jotting down names and phone numbers. And then that's literally how it went. There's no resume. There was no nothing. It was like, oh, call Morgan. So, okay, I'll call him in the morning. And then I got a call. I think it was at like 5 a.m. my time, because they're East Coast. And they were like, you want to work for Blackwater? And I was like, not really. Like, you guys just got hanged off the bridge in April 04. Like, the only thing I knew about Blackwater was holy crap, right? And then they're like, how about for $550 a day? And I was like, yeah, no, I do actually want to work for Blackwater. You've talked me into it. So it was not like this conscious decision, this career path, or anything else. It was like, go get your adventure, go get your money. I figured I'd spend 18 months to 2 years there, and then I would just split out, man. Like, because it wasn't a career. Like, it turned into one, but nobody started it and saying, oh, it's a career. So, I mean, Blackwater really, I think it was 2 weeks of training. Literally, like, you already know how to shoot, move, and communicate. Here's how you walk a diamond. This is the important person in the middle. If bullets start flying, protect him. All right, guys, go to Iraq. Like, let's just roll.
Wow. Well, I mean, and so you're talking to guys that have hopefully had some military experience that could kind of, with just a little bit of like, everybody good. But I'm pretty sure you're in a group of guys that, even if they go, is everybody good? If a guy wasn't totally good, he'd just be like, yeah, I'll be fine. Like, 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 just dishonest, not to say dishonest pirates, but just like, I don't want to be honest in this group. Like, I don't want to let somebody know that I might be the weakling and I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around exactly what you're saying. But yeah, that was in like North Carolina or something like that. Like, it wasn't that where their headquarters were, or somewhere?
Moyock, North Carolina, Puddin Ridge Road in Moyock, North Carolina.
Okay.
And Blackwater started as a shooting range, because you got the Navy that's north up there, Norfolk and Portsmouth. And Eric Prince was essentially like, we could never get range time. So I'm just going to build a range, and then people can come down and they can shoot. And
Yeah.
then Columbine happened, and they were like, well, we can start doing some training classes on how to do active shooter in schools and stuff. But dude, it wasn't rolling, right? They weren't making money hand over fist at this point. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like a side hustle. And then, dude, when Iraq kicked off, that's when everything just absolutely exploded, because what you had, right, in Afghanistan, we had maybe 15,000 troops at the time. There wasn't a whole lot of
Mhm.
people that like went and gone to war and they were coming back in 04. They were probably still in Iraq at that point. So
Yeah.
it was like a bunch of guys that had done good training, decent training in the military, and were like, okay, this is my chance to go to war, right? I mean, think of it, if you're like a Navy SEAL, you spent 10 years in, nothing ever happened. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, hey man, you can make $550 a day, and you get to go like test your metal that you didn't get to do. So yeah, there was a lot of people out there, but there was, I'll tell you the one way you can figure out if somebody's a turd. What they'll say is, yeah, I worked with, and then insert the blank. Oh, I worked with the Navy SEALs. I worked with
Yeah.
special.
Name dropping. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was, I remember there was one guy, he was prior IDF, but he was a US citizen. And that guy, dude, he just wouldn't shut his mouth. And it's prison rules, right? The guy that comes up to you the first day in prison is the guy that doesn't have any friends, because nobody
Yeah.
fucking likes the guy.
Ooh,
So
good sign. Yeah.
yeah, so with like this guy's shooting his mouth off, and everybody's like, no, we don't like him. We ended up getting him booted. He didn't go to country with us. But they were trying to get guys so fast that there was a number that just kind of fell through the cracks, man.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. We used to have a guy that worked with us and in the PD, and he just everything was a story. It was all stories, but because he was Israeli, so you got to go and do military service. So it's just, yeah, I was a sergeant in the Israeli army, and I did this. I was military intelligence. I was this, that, and it's like, bro, like nobody really cares. Like, what are you doing here? Like, talk here. Like, how good are you here? So he ended up uh getting in trouble, and didn't make it out, say, or, didn't last his full career. But yeah, but everybody just knew, like, oh yeah, he's the guy with stories. Don't He's not telling you the truth. So
Yeah.
so I might as well. I'll drop a quick commercial, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of get into some of what you saw over there and sort of some of those experiences. So we'll do that and be kind
I'm gonna put my front light on.
of
I realized that I got
yeah.
like this shadow on the side of my face.
Oh, unattractive. There we go.
I know.
I'll
How's
be
that?
we'll be right back. Yeah, you check it out. Yo, what's up, everybody? Want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items, because aside from the hats that I have up there, Donut Shop Podcast PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show, and don't forget donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks. Hey, come here. Come here. No, bring it in real close. I got something for you. Did you subscribe yet? Right down there. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification, because you got to know when we're going to give you a show. Do it. Go now. Go now. I'm waiting. Come on. Right there. All right, back to the show. So, like, when you're over there and you're working, and you mentioned at one point there was like the State Department contract is what really kind of exploded it and kind of made it a lot larger. You had more teams because there's different people moving around in country, and you guys were basically their security forces, right?
We were their escort service, but not in a
Escorts.
sexy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we went into Iraq, I'm just gonna let you guys in on a secret. We didn't plan for anything.
Yeah.
So when we went in, we were like, okay, we kicked their ass. You got the big banner that's like mission accomplished. And
Yeah.
then George W. Bush was like, I don't want to be seen as an occupier. So the first thing that we did within like 14 months of occupying Iraq is we handed it over to the Iraqi government. So now the military forces were there at the request of the Iraqi government. But it was also turned it from being like a Department of State war mission or Department of Defense war mission to a Department of State diplomatic mission. And here's the other thing we screwed up royally. We got rid of the entire Bath Party, and everybody's heard about how we got rid of the military, and that was a bad idea. But what we also got rid of is every government official was a Bath Party member, and they were all gone. So now you have a new government that's trying to figure out how to essentially be a government. Everything from like, I got to sell oil, a stock market, which stock market was like literally, it was like a chalkboard with chalk, man. It looked like
Yeah.
1930s horse races, dude. It was crazy. Picking up trash, landing airplanes, like all that stuff. Nobody knew how to do that we had in the new government. So
Yeah.
we protect diplomats to go out and essentially help them figure out how to run a country. And because it was a diplomatic mission, you couldn't use the Department of Defense. You had to use Department of State. So
Uh-huh.
DOS has like, man, they might have had like 50 people that were diplomatic security services, but none of them were trained in combat. They were trained to go out to like, when Hillary Clinton went to China when she was first lady
Yeah.
and
Yeah, a
go,
friend of mine does that. He was a police
yeah,
officer here for like 6 years and then went over and joined that Department of State. So yeah, it's just embassy work and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. So dude, they needed a bunch of knuckle draggers. And
Yeah.
we raised our hands to say, "Hey, let's go do this thing." And that's really when it did skyrocket, as it went from like Department of State, and then it was like we need every diplomat that we possibly can. And then a couple of them started getting hit and dying and stuff, and our mission kind of like reduced because those people are pretty risk averse. So you got a bunch of knuckle draggers like me. They're like, "Let's go out there." If you're engaged, like let's rock and roll. And then you have these guys coming from Harvard and Tufts and all these snooty schools that are like, I don't know if you should do that. It was a very it was like we were always button heads, man. And
Oh, wow.
it made for fun. The problem is you're a contractor, so they don't need a reason to get rid of you.
Yeah,
There's no like, I'm gonna call my
there's
union
not like
rep.
yeah, it's not like a chain of command or there's no due process. It's just, "Hey, no more contract. Thanks. Have a good day." Or "I want this guy off my team," like but you guys are engaging. You guys aren't just going out and hunting people for the hell of it. You're engaging people that are trying to mess with you or your escort, like the person from
Yeah.
the Department of State, right? Like so
Yeah. Well, dude, and car bombs were all the rage, right?
uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
so we took a driving course. You put yourself. Let's say this is the person that's important. You always come over here. So if something blows up, I get blown up instead of them. So we did our driving courses for IEDs, but with car bombs, it was literally. And if you've ever been overseas, and you know that every car looks the same, and in Iraq,
Yeah.
it is a white car with like orange doors. And
Uh-huh.
every day they'd say, "Oh yeah, there's a car bomb, and it's a white car, and it's got orange doors on it." We're like, "Dude, that's literally 70% of the cars we see."
Yeah.
So if you go on YouTube and you start seeing those videos, and we're engaging vehicles that are coming up, that's the reason. Like we're not out there, and look, we weren't shooting through the windshield. We were trying to disable the vehicle. You start the tire, then you go up into the radiator, then you go to the engine, and then if they're still coming, that's when you start, going through the windshield. Um, but it
Yeah.
was it was defensive in nature, but offensive in that you're driving around literally like being I don't know if being hunted's the right thing to say, but like there's a lot of risk out there. So you're
Right.
you're actively moving into from a safe area into a risk area, and how do you act and react? And that's where we just made stuff up, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so who's giving you guys, like, intel briefings on that kinda stuff? Like, when you say, like, that, "Hey, you're looking for this car," basically a black Honda Civic, you know,
Yeah.
that we see thousands of every day too. You're looking for this car, who's doing that and who's sharing that? Department of State, or are you getting some of that from the military too?
So they had like a little intelligence area within the embassy, which was Saddam Hussein's old palace. So we would go in there and we'd get like the INTSUM, the intelligence summary, and it would come
Mhm.
through and it's like, okay, you got a black Honda Civic. The license plate number is, and it's like all those squiggle lines that you see. And I was like, dude,
Yeah, yeah,
how the hell are we even going to know that?
yeah,
So we coordinated a little bit with the military, just in like trying to make sure that we're getting the intel stuff. Like where the bombs blowing up, we probably want to avoid that when we drive.
yeah,
But for the most part, there's no coordination. I couldn't call Big Army if something happened. It was just like me, 11 other dudes that are in the convoy, and if something happens, like fend for yourself, man. It's
yeah.
on.
Wow, wow. Yeah, yeah, it's just you guys. Like, it is our team, and it's not like you guys have been training for a year, off, training for this mission. Like, you guys just got piecemealed together and thrown out there, and you just gotta hope for the best. Wow, dude. Wow. So is that kind of where like these books that you've written, like the one that you've got over your shoulder, Guns, Girls, and Greed, like is that kind of where that these books have kind of come from and how you've grown that?
Yeah, it was such a weird time. And I would come home and I would tell people stuff. And even, as I got older, I'd tell them stories about how I worked in Blackwater. And they'd be like, you got to write a book. You got to write a book.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, dude, nobody gives a crap. But I just got pissed off one day and started writing stories. And you would be shocked at how scared you can be and still make jokes. I mean, probably not you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you're in this situation and it's high risk and you're freaking out and somebody like farts. Like it's just
Oh,
like and
totally.
everybody laughs. Yeah, like that's just how it works. So when
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain this to people, they're like, dude, you should write this stuff down. So I ended up putting it down and then like sent it out to a couple of agencies and ended up getting picked up. But it is literally the funniest, most intelligent guys I've ever worked with, almost to a T, right? These are all
Yeah.
former special operations guys for the most part. They weren't, they weren't on the Harvard track like me
Yeah.
coming out of high school. Like poor white trash kids, it was all of us. And they're
Yeah.
like, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to join the military." And then they join the military and they just keep doing continuously harder stuff, but they're driven, they're intelligent, and you sit there and like I'm looking over at, guy that was in Black Hawk Down with CAG, and there's another guy that was like the youngest member of SEAL Team 6 at the time. And I'm like, who the hell am I? Like,
Who
I'm
am
the
I?
Air
Yeah,
Force
yeah.
Security Forces guy. Um,
Yeah.
but dude, those guys, coolest guys on the planet. Like, if you were willing to learn and you didn't shoot your mouth off, like we were saying earlier, they would absolutely help you out with everything.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and cool to be able to work with those guys, and what they're doing is they're looking at you and trying to figure out your strengths, and they're just gonna push you into a role probably on that team where your strengths are gonna hit, so that they can utilize you because they don't need dead weight, dragging around the team and stuff either. So that's so that's pretty freaking cool. When some of the stuff that we've talked about, and you kind of mentioned that you sort of wanted to try to mess around, or that you even make jokes about cops and like de-escalation and how you talk to people. Did you have to do any of that kind of stuff over there, or is it just shoot first, ask questions later?
No, I think the first time I had a shoot, there was a cop on our team. So, dude, it was almost all military guys. And
Yeah.
then the cops were like, "Oh, I'm gonna come over." And dude, we had everything from like cops from Baton Rouge. I'll tell you a story about that guy, all the way to
Okay.
like the podunk cop that was like, "I just got done in Cornville, Iowa, and I pulled over
Yeah.
a 17." Like it's just
Yeah.
weird, but
Handles like one call a month or something like that, and
yeah,
it's like a loose cow or something. Yeah.
yeah, go find the emu.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like the cops would always question what we were doing, and us military guys were like, "Dude, what are you talking about? See a threat, shoot threat." Like that's how it works. So there was a lot of headbutting between cops and foreign military guys.
Hmm.
I talk about it in the book, but we're turning outside of some ministry, and our back gunner ends up shooting at a car, and then the no, it was the front gunner. It was somebody on the other side. I was shooting the other way. I wasn't shooting. But he ended up like skipping it off the ground. It hit an Iraqi policeman, and the Iraqi policeman's like bleeding out. We have no idea. We're in the front of the thing.
Yeah.
So we drive off, and then we come back, and we're parked, and the cop's like, "Who shot the Iraqi policeman?" And we're like, "No, dude. Like, I shot at the car. What are you talking about? The car that was coming up on us, car bombs, you know that?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"I'm just saying." Like, he went through like this entire use of force model that none of us even
Yeah.
entertained, right? Like
Yeah.
I was trained in it as military police security forces, but like that's not how it works in Iraq. And
No.
you could just see the mentality of police officers was different. It's like I want to be here, and I want to de-escalate to here. And if it escalates, then I only want to go here. Military guys are like, "Hey, it's here. Let's go here. Why the hell not?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
You just
cops,
got to overt force on top of it so that you're stronger and you can push it down. Yeah.
yeah, just mush it. It's
Yeah.
like a bug. Um,
Yeah.
so it was. I would say the cops had the hardest time coming over and just kind of like being part of the group, just because our mentalities were just so much different. Cool guys. I mean, one of them was actually, well, a couple of them were Minnesota police officers. I wonder if they're still over there. I should hit them up. But
Yeah.
uh,
It's almost a war zone. Yeah.
yeah, like dog handlers, a lot of those guys were cops. And they were there for the same reason we were, right? Like, I'm gonna make as much money as I possibly can, and then I'm gonna jump back to my police force. So if you're a cop and you're looking to become a PMC, make sure you have a job waiting for you when you get home. Because a lot of those
Yeah.
dudes were like, "I'm gonna go make my money." I'll tell you about the guy from Baton Rouge, actually. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he's like this fat guy, and he's got that Louisiana accent. And we're all talking to him because Katrina had just hit. And we're like, "Dude, what the
Yeah.
fuck happened?" And he's telling us all these stories about the looting, and they were essentially going out and clearing out, let's call them donut shops. So
Yeah.
he's telling us these stories, and I was like, "Dude, what the hell happened over there?" And he ended up getting so wasted that he kicked through the door of his room, which is like a plastic door, and it cut his calf, like literally the whole calf. So we had to grab as many people as we could that were actually sober to drive him over to the Combat Army Surgical Hospital. And then he was on a plane literally 2 days later. They had fired him.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah, yeah. Oh, way to ruin it, like, and, like, not a cool story for you, like, "What'd you do? What happened to you over there?" Like, wow. Yeah,
He's
not
like,
like I
I kicked in my door. I was breaching. Dude, this is how
yeah,
you say it. I was breaching a door and I got
yeah.
injured. Yeah. You don't
Yeah, yeah,
tell me you were
exactly.
wasted and it was your own plastic door.
And it was your own it was the door to your freaking dorm room, and then freaking yeah, no, it's not gonna go well for him. But nowadays they could come back and probably well, yeah, I mean, they're not being that picky these days. They're kind of just picking up whoever has a pulse and is applying to be a police officer. So sort of what they were doing for Blackwater back in the day. Now you're getting that in law enforcement. So there's a few here and there that are falling through the cracks. I think Michigan just convicted the one dude 20 years that shot the lady with the hot boiling pot of water. Um,
Did he?
when
They really?
Yeah, I think I just saw it on the news. I
Oh,
came in late, but I think they convicted him. Well, I know they convicted him, and then they sentenced him to 20 years. Um,
oof.
so we crazy story about work for me. We watched that video, the body cam video, in briefing in the morning, and broke it down, talked about it as a training point, different schools of thought, all that kind of stuff. Well, my partner, or we don't have partners like ride together, but zone partner that works in the next zone, we get a call of the mental health people want to go talk to this woman and do an evaluation on her. She's a client. And so we're like, all right, cool. Yeah, we'll knock on the door. We'll go check. Her mom comes. We're like, all right, cool. Can we come in? These guys want to talk to her. We're just kind of here for security. And she comes out of the freaking kitchen. She's got a pot of boiling water. And I'm like, I looked at my boy Jose and I'm like, is this fucking real life? Like, we just watched this video this morning. Like, and I mean, thankfully we are seasoned enough, and we knew, like, hey, let's triangulate, let's get the bystanders out of the room, let's make sure we're not in a hot water throwing distance that we feel in fear for our lives. and we'll de-escalate. Well, yeah, it eventually worked out, and took her into custody, all that kind of stuff. Baker acted her. She went to the hospital because she obviously wasn't in her right mind. But holy crap! And it's so the next time they showed a training video, like Jose and I are like, hey, can we leave because we don't want to like live this video. In a couple hours when we get our second call of the day or whatever after breakfast. But yeah, so this goes to de-escalation that you guys didn't necessarily have to do, or that you battled against former cops when you were over there, at
We
least.
weren't into it. We just weren't.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it a lot easier. So there's what kind of after action accountability is there for that? So like that guy on your team's like, yo, you guys hit that cop when you were shooting back there. Like, what are you guys doing on a follow up, or what? Allegedly, if you hit that cop, like what are you guys talking about back in the war room?
Yeah, we said, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. We went back to our room and then hit the gym. Like that was it.
Yeah.
So here's
Okay.
like, I mean, coming from a law enforcement background, right? You have your statutes, you got your policies within the
Yeah.
department, and then you got your state statutes and all that other stuff that goes up the chain. We just didn't have any of that. And it makes it to where some people can really push the boundaries. I don't want to sit here and say we were all psychos and we were out there just like
Yeah.
slinging lead, because that's not the case, right? We all,
Right.
we all had to sleep at night and be able to be like, okay, there were some psychos, don't get me wrong, but for the most
Yeah.
part, there's psychos everywhere.
Yeah.
But there was no, like, the only thing we were told is you have a diplomatic passport. If something bad happens, we're going to whisk you away. And they had shown that they did that. There was a guy at Blackwater that ended up getting wasted. And I mean, there's a theme here. He ended up getting wasted, and he went to the vice president's like little palace area, walked in, saw his guard, ended up engaging the guard, shooting and killing the guard. And then Blackwater was like, get him out of country. Didn't get
Oh.
prosecuted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
mean, we didn't know what, like, the laws of Iraq don't apply.
Yeah.
The laws of like the UCMJ, we're not military, so those don't apply. So what
Right.
laws actually applied, and nobody really knew until like 2007. Jimmy Watson was on it, the Nisker
Yeah.
Square shooting, where they said, oh, federal laws of the US apply, and now we're going to prosecute you guys. So I think, I, I mean, if I had known that there was that much ambiguity in the legal framework, I still would have taken the job. Let's be honest here. I would have taken the
Yeah.
job.
It's just
Yeah.
just try to use your common sense
Yeah.
and live by that. Like, just let's make sure we don't die, and let's use kind of some of our common sense that we would know if we were in America, but we're not.
But
And
yeah.
someone's trying to kill me, you
Well,
know.
the crazy thing is, and Jimmy's probably talked to you about it, but how do you do like chain of custody, right? You're in a war zone. So Nister Square happened. Let's just say it's one of my shoots, right? That happens, and then they say, hey, Morgan, that was a bad shoot. Like, how do you go out there and like check out a crime scene? How do you go
Yeah.
out there and make sure that you're getting the chain of custody for the evidence? Like, how do you do any of these things? And the truth is that you can't. And
Yeah.
I think that that's where a lot of people, when I tell them, go make your money, do what you want, but understand that, like, it is so ambiguous that if the US government decides that they're going to be after you, they're going to spend all of your tax dollars tracking you down, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would rather,
Right.
it's like playing soccer with a bunch of your friends and nobody pays attention to the rules. I'd rather just play soccer with the rules because everybody knows how you're playing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
PNC
or
work.
yeah, soccer or basketball. And it's like, bro, that was a foul. And it's like, that's a foul. You want to go to the replay? You want to argue with me fouls or balls and strikes and stuff like that? So yeah, no, you're definitely playing a sport with no ref that, there's no ref until they want to have a ref. And then
Yeah.
that's when you deal with like media attention, which probably in today's day and age, like back in 05, 06, like we're talking Nextels with barely a cell phone camera, like grainy, less than 360p videos and stuff like that. So
MySpace.
stuff's not coming out, but like Yeah, my barely MySpace. So like, and then versus what we're seeing today, where there's 12 people standing around ICE and these protesters or whatever they want to call them, and they're all shooting them in 4K, 120 frames a second or 60 frames a second, like that kind of stuff. So it's a totally different world, which is one of the reasons why I was kind of like, get my money and run, or take my money and go. I hit 20 years as a police officer, and I was like, bank, like let's get
Yeah.
out of here. Um, s- Stuff that we're used to, or that the way that you could live, that got the job done, got everybody home safely. Most of the customers were left pleased, isn't the way you can do it anymore. And at least for law enforcement. And I'm sure going forward from like 2007, 8, 9, it wasn't like that. That started to go away for you know, PMCs like over in Iraq and that kind of stuff, right?
Well, yeah, and look, dude, PMCs are not. I mean, look, they're exception. Most of them are exceptionally intelligent, but they're not the smartest people on the planet, right?
Yeah.
I say, like, joining Blackwater in 2004 after those guys got hanged off the bridge was kind of like swiping right on a big booty goth girl on
Yeah.
Tinder.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
like you know that it's not going to work out. You know it's not
Yeah.
long term, but you just hope you got some pretty good stories at the end of it to tell your
Yeah.
friends. Like that was the
Yeah.
whole point of it. Um, but as it went on, it just got more and more probably professional. I hate to say that that's the term, but it did have to evolve and get more professional over time as technology also changed with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I remember Eric Prince was talking about how they volunteered to put cameras in all the vehicles, and the State Department didn't want it. And then Mr. Square happened; they put all the cameras and stuff in there. So, but I mean, to the point that PMCs are not always the smartest. They had that contract in Gaza, and all those guys were making $1,200 a day. And then they would be like, I just uploaded this to Instagram, and it's showing like the ingress and the egress routes and like all the people. Like it was an insane amount of social media. This was probably like a year ago, but there was a guy in Africa on the Strava app that was like, just got into a firefight, going for a run to calm down, and he's like running around this African airfield, and it's like, oh, so the
Yeah.
CIA's over there. Like
Yeah.
these
On
are not,
Strava, yeah, that's the running app. Yeah, that's one of those
yeah,
running trackers. Yeah, it and that's and that kind of, I mean, it goes a little bit like from my experience in law enforcement. Like I ran our social media for a little while, and I used to, like, when I'd have brand new officers coming in and I'd find out their names, I'd just go right to Facebook, right to Instagram, and I'd see what's public. Because I remember when I started in '05, I changed my Facebook profile to say taking out the garbage. And I had an old cop from another agency that I knew come up to me and go, bro, take that shit off your Facebook page. It's so stupid. And I was like, oh, you're right. So like, and I used to do that. And when I'd have to like do sort of like a training with these guys, I'd go, hey, welcome, Nick. Nice to meet you. I saw you were out last week drinking at the club and doing this and doing that. And like, it's all on your Facebook page. Like, here's how you make your Facebook page a little more, assess your risk. Plus, I'd give them the defense attorney speech. You make a DUI, but last weekend you were down in Fort Lauderdale bouncing around behind the wheel, singing songs with your friends, and obviously drunk. And I go, that's going to mess you up on court testimony and all that. So these people were like, oh yeah, or our guys would be like, oh, I get it. So a lot of that. And so we have, as a society, a lot of times now with this social media, or even on the fitness training apps, a need for approval and a need for like exposure and to get seen and stuff like that. Like that guy probably wanted his friends on the app back home to go, fuck, this guy's in Africa running around.
yeah,
That's cool. And it felt good, but he doesn't realize, integrity of the mission and stuff, and safety is gonna jam him up. So, all that kind of stuff definitely comes back, to making it harder on the mission and what they're trying to do out there. So what are these guys like? And I was reading that in your stories, the Gaza. What was their mission, and what are they doing over in Gaza? I didn't even know about this until I started reading it from your stuff.
Yeah, so dude, this is a big paradigm shift, and I don't think people understand how big this change is. So when I was a PMC, pretty much every contract that you got was through Department of State, Department of Defense, Department of you name it. Right. So
Yeah.
even the guys in the GRS guys that were in Libya, right? That was under a US contract. Gaza changed all that. So when President Biden said, "Hey, I'm going to put in this dock and we're going to get food to Gaza, but I'm not going to put any
Oh
boots
yeah.
on the ground," the first thing I heard was PMC. You're going to put
Uh-huh.
PMCs in there, and there's a real reason for it. The reason is if one of those guys die, nobody gives a crap. But if a
Yeah.
soldier gets killed, they're like, "Holy crap!" For the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about this. So it's become the easy button for the U.S. government to not put boots on the ground, put PMCs on the ground. Now, Gaza changed that because that contract was funded through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, pretty much Israel.
Hmm.
And they had a US based contractor and US passport holders that were doing that contract. And so now you really can't even make an argument that you're not a mercenary because you're not even
Yeah.
working for the United States. You're
Right.
working essentially for Israel. And I mean, Eric Prince has the same thing. He's in Gaza right now, or not Gaza, he's in Haiti. And they're putting strapping explosives on drones and blowing up gang members. And like I
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of insane, but you're working for Haiti. And that goes back to that kind of legal framework that I was talking about earlier. Like who actually governs you when you're working for Haiti? And let's say you're in Gaza, you're making $1,200 a day, and Hamas captures you. What is the U.S. actually going to do, or what are they obligated to do to get you back? Because the short answer is nothing. You were over there
Right.
working for
If I'm
somebody
over
else.
there as a tourist, it's one thing, but yeah, you're over there basically pledging to be a warfighter for someone else, or a
Yeah,
potential warfighter for someone else, or another entity, another world power, or something like that. So it's like, hey, you didn't renounce your citizenship, but you've made an allegiance to someone else.
yeah.
So yeah,
Which is, I mean, through a company. And
yeah,
then, I mean, what the Gaza guys were doing, and this is where I give them 100% kudos. The UN sucks at distributing food.
right,
They essentially assume that like 80% of that food is going to be stolen by the warlords, and then they're going to resell it on the market, make money, and then they're going to buy guns with it. And the UN's like, that's
yeah,
really good. We got some food to real people.
yeah.
Um,
They're only looking at that first 10%. They're just like, yeah, look,
yeah.
we got food on the ground, but there's
So
still starving people. Yeah,
UG Solutions went in there and was like, we will get food directly to the people. Now, of course, what happens is you get food directly to the people. They go out into Gaza, Hamas goes in and steals all their food anyway. But they were at
yeah,
least making sure that like these people are going in, they're getting the food, they're walking out with it. And dude, they did it better than the UN. So it's this weird thing where it's like, what are the legal ramifications should you be doing it? But on the other hand, like it's so bad the way it's being done right now. You got to try something else. Like Haiti's been trying to fight their gangs for decades. And
right, yeah, and then they tried to bring in Nigerian security forces to do that, and Nigerian guys were basically from the reports that I heard were just basically like, "Fuck this! This is
yeah,
crazy. I'm out of here." And so Nigeria, I guess, essentially pulled back when they were supposed to be like the biggest supporters of Haiti to supply them with security and stuff like that they needed there. Um, yeah, Haiti's an unfortunate, crazy mess, I guess so. But yeah, so you're still tapped in, or at least through conversation or open source type stuff to be able to get that information to learn about this stuff, or what are
yeah,
you?
once I came out with the book, there was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that," and I was like, "Dude, that's awesome." I mean, some of the stuff was actually pretty scummy. I'll talk about it in a bit, but like, I know enough people that have gone and did these contracts that it's like, holy crap. And then there's open source, and then there's just looking between the lines, right? Like
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's not hard to figure out that we went into Venezuela, got rid of Maduro, and now we're going to have people that are, BP and all those U.S. companies extracting oil. Well, who's going to protect those
right,
oil fields? Private military contractors. We're not going to put boots on the ground. So
right.
it's honestly, right now, the PMC world looks a lot like it did back in 2003, 2004. Like there are a lot of jobs that are populating, and it's shocking. You can go on job boards and figure out what the heck is going on too. Like,
Right. Yeah, I think about that because it's like, oh, Trump, the president of peace and all this kind of stuff, but it's like there's a lot of conflict. We may not be in full scale wars, but there's some major conflicts all around the world that the United States has our hands in everything. And it's just, you know,
well, and
when,
you can figure out where PMCs are going. Follow Eric Prince.
oh
It's
yeah,
not that hard, right? So where's he hanging out? He's hanging out in South America. He's hanging out in Africa. What are our two priorities? Rare earth mineral and
yep,
oil. Like
yeah,
like at the end of the day, you can see where it's going if you just like look at it on paper and say, because dude, I'm not that smart. Let's be honest here.
yeah,
If I can figure it out, most people can. Um, but yeah, dude, the rare earth stuff is getting pretty crazy right now with the Chinese in Africa specifically, because the Chinese can go in there and they've been doing it, the Belts and Roads Initiative,
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
Um, so now Eric Prince, who used to actually be funded by the Chinese to do Belts and Roads, is now like trying to get his foot in there and say, I'll be the PMC to combat the Chinese. It's like a self-licking ice cream cone, man. Like,
yeah.
like so the scummiest thing that PMCs are doing right now is they're bringing unaccompanied minors from the US Mexico border into the United States. And you can
Okay.
look this up. It's on MVM. MVM has the big contract, Mike Victor Mike. Literally, if you go on their job board, it's like unaccompanied minor escort into the United States. So when everybody's like, how did we get that many people into the US? That was MVM. How do we lose 300,000 people or kids in the United States? That's
But
MVM.
so why are they bringing them here?
Because Joe Biden was like, I'm opening up this border and we're going to get as many people as we possibly can through here. But there's a policy for Border Patrol that you can only retain an unaccompanied minor for 72 hours. After that, you
Uh-huh.
have to get them somewhere. And you can't question them, you can't fingerprint them. Some guy can come in with a big beard and say he's 17, and you just
Right.
have to go with it, right? So
Uh-huh.
they hand them off to a private military contractor who takes them to, let's just say, Kentucky, and then they hand them off to an NGO, and the NGO says, "Oh, I'll find your sponsor," and it just gives them away, man.
Jesus, I'm just like because, and it's just crazy because today, I mean, we're recording this on Thursday, the 29th of January. Today on Anti-Hero Broadcast, the guy Dominic Izzo, he came on and he just spit this whole story about basically about the lizards that have created a giant human trafficking ring, and that's what all this stuff is based on. It's just for you to bring that up after hearing that today, which all it does is it sounds like they're doing human trafficking. And it's like, where are these kids going? Well, we don't know. We gave them to these guys. And then you check with them. Well, we gave them to these guys. And by the time you catch up to it, it's they're 7 steps away and they're on high speed getting out of there. So it's like, oh my God. So
Well, and
oh
that's
maybe
dude,
maybe
that's
maybe Izzo's onto something.
well, I don't know if it's lizard people, but
Yeah.
that is the nice thing about using contracts is that because I've talked to people in the NGOs and they said, well, we thought they were being screened by the private military contractors. And the private military contractors are saying, oh, I thought they were screening them once they got in to make sure they actually got to their sponsor. So it turns into that Spider-Man meme where they're
Yeah.
like pointing at each other and then nobody gets blamed. Dude, Blackwater got blamed for Nister Square in 2007. Nobody
Yeah.
said, oh, the State Department, that was really stupid. Why are you guys doing it? They said, that's
Uh,
big, bad Blackwater. So for the government, it's a great scapegoat.
yeah.
But for the contractor on the ground, there could be
It's your
some
head.
serious liability coming. Well, there was just
Yeah.
L3 just got sued by some of those prisoners in Gitmo, or not Gitmo, Abu Ghraib.
Okay.
And they're suing the contracting company saying, hey, you brought these people over and they abused the heck out of us. And it's still working its way through the court system. So
Yeah, I mean, everybody in power wants to be able to point to a certain direction, someone else. It wasn't my fault. I signed off on it, but it wasn't my fault. Those guys were the ones that were carrying it out, and the contractor is easy, like you said, to be the scapegoat. Um, Man,
Well,
I'm just
if you want to hit
I'm
a
still
break, because
dumbfounded.
I'm gonna blow your mind on how it's actually working with the border stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, we'll hit another commercial, and then, I'm still my mind is still swirling about the children across the border thing and all that stuff. I'm just like, I don't even know where to go from that. So
Oh,
yeah,
it gets
we
worse. Don't
will.
worry. That's the teaser
Okay.
for you guys to stay and listen. It gets way worse.
Okay. Oh, geez. All right, we'll be right back. What's in the cup? Guys, what's in my cup? Blackout Coffee Company. We joined up with them. I've been drinking it and I enjoy it, and I think you may enjoy it as well. So you can go over to our website and click the link, or you can just go to their website, blackoutcoffee.com, and use our coupon code to get 10% off. The code is DSP10. So go over, check it out. Yo, what's up, guys? I want to do a follow-up. I used to run an ad or commercial for my friends at HPTRT, Human Performance, talking about like testosterone therapy or, all that kind of stuff. I finally I've been using it. I've been, a member of the program for over 6 months now. I got my second round of labs, and I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. When I first was tested, I was at 330. I'm a 43-year-old man, and my test was at 330. I didn't even go through the injections. I'm going through a couple different types of prescription pills that they have to help me out. All legal, all on the up and up. But after this 6 months, my test has gone up to 910. As somebody who works out 3 to 4 times a week, wants to stay young, wants to stay healthy with all this stuff. It's helped with all kinds of stuff, like my focus, continuing to get me like the best sleep that I've ever gotten. I've enjoyed it. So go over to hp-trt.com and check it out. You can bring, if you've had lab work within the last 6 months, you can bring your own lab work and they'll start you up. If you haven't, then you pay for the lab work through them. Or you can just go to your own doctor and do your lab work through your normal insurance, which I'm sure has a zero copay, if anything. And use the code DSP20, and that'll get you 20% off forever, as long as you're a member, as long as you use Human Performance. So it's a great program, good people over there. So go ahead and get it done. And if you've been thinking about it, or if you've looked at recent tests in your testosterone, and you want a boost of that kind of stuff, get into it, because you can also get the testosterone through them as well as peptides and other things. So DSP20 will get you 20% off. Good luck. All right. So yeah, I'm kind of scared to get my mind blown any bit more. I don't know what's left of it. I think you took out a whole side of it already. Um, what else you got there?
So the cartels called it Border Patrol Uber. So
Okay.
here's what would happen is a cartel would go down to South America. They would essentially take a kid, they would move them to the border, and they would say, "Hey, kid, when you get to wherever it is that you're going, A, this is where you're going, and B, this is who you're going to talk to."
Mm,
So they would then hand them off to Border Patrol, knowing that they were going to get to their final destination. PMC takes them to Kentucky, gives them to the nonprofit that doesn't screen anybody, and they say, "Hey, little girl, where are you supposed to go?" And they say, "Oh, this is my sponsor."
yeah.
And they did not check any of these sponsors. They were in strip clubs, strip malls, storage units. Like the addresses for these sponsors were all never checked. And they would literally hand that girl off to cartel members in the US. And that's where you started seeing these kids that were getting sex trafficked. You had that marijuana bust with all the minors in California like 4 or 5 months ago. They had like
Okay.
19 minors that were
Uh,
essentially in slavery that were having to try to work off. So you're
yeah.
literally
Terrible.
giving them to the people, and even if they're a coyote and they're smuggling them in, they can hold those people and say, "Hey, I said it was 10,000, but now I want 20." "Oh, you
Yeah.
can't give me $20,000. Guess what? I can put this girl into sex slavery." Like
Yeah.
it was really that simple. And I think there's still 73,000 kids that are unaccounted for in the United States, facilitated by this process.
Jeez. It's yeah, no, I mean it is. It's just mind blowing. I'm like speechless like when I think about some of that, because it's like we hear some of like the old stories, the survivor stories, the more the people in the United States, like US to US, that get trafficked and done stuff like that. But it's the ones across the border or that are coming from South America and Central America that are even sadder because they don't necessarily know any better. They have no one here, and that kind of stuff. And the border policies were just crazy. That was just letting it come in and just whoosh, just goodbye. And it just seems like there was nothing to check. Like they weren't checking anything.
Dude, it became a
Holy
conveyor
crap!
belt for sex slavery. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
The other thing that most people didn't hear about is we actually had private military contractors in Haiti. So a Haitian could go in there, go onto the CBP app, whatever the hell it was, and they
Uh-huh.
would say, "Hey, I want to go to the US." And then once they got the green light, the private military contractor, which was Constellus, which is what Blackwater turned into, would fly them to Gitmo, and then from Gitmo, they would fly them into wherever they wanted to be. But most of them actually ended up in Ohio. So when you hear about like how are all these Haitians getting to Ohio, your tax dollars were paying somebody to be sitting in Haiti as a private military contractor, going through Guantanamo Bay, and then moving them into Haiti and handing them off to these nonprofits.
Wow.
It got the and dude, here's the problem, and I've tracked a lot of it, but they were hiding the money under FEMA, DHS, HHS, you name it. So now when it's slowly starting to unravel, I know that RFK Jr.'s talked about it, but literally now all these different departments are pointing at each other. Well, that was DHS. Well, that was FEMA. Well, that was, and it's like, who gives a shit? Like these are kids. These are
Yeah.
these are these are kids that you guys need to go find. I don't give a shit how it happened. Go find these kids.
Yeah. Well, and then that goes back to, and with Trump, he hears, 4 pages of a story and only tells the media when he talks his shit, he talks about like one paragraph of it. There's obviously always way more to the story, but either he's got so much and he only remembers a little bit, or he just knows what's crazy. And that's when he was like talking about, Haitians eating the ducks or the dogs or
The
whatever,
dogs.
and
Eating the
stuff. Yeah, the
dogs.
dogs, but he was probably really talking about almost nearly Haitian built community or a city that had just had a flood of these people that were brought over through contracts into the city.
Yeah.
But he didn't obviously explain that part. He's just talking about one like crazy thing that is still to this day what goes on everywhere, where it's like, oh, look what is happening over here, while they're doing something over here, and they're pointing us in a different direction. And it sounds like you can pretty much watch PMCs and see the other direction, what you're not supposed to be looking at, I guess.
You can definitely look at the job boards and be like, oh, something's going on there. Like, dude, so when I released the book, I was on Facebook, which is a terrible place to be. Let's be honest
Cesspool.
here. It's
Yeah.
like the grumpiest people on the planet. But they were literally like posting these jobs for these podunk security firms, and they're like, "We're going to Eagle Pass, and we're going to be moving kids and family units." And I was like, "Dude, this can't be real." And then I started
Yeah.
looking up like you got the big players, you got MVM, you got Constellus, you got like those you can kind of see, and it's like, holy crap, they're actually doing this. Like, and then PBS had these contractors that were walking around with kids in these small regional airports trying to avoid being seen. And then when people say, who do you work for? Well, they work for MVM. They don't care. They don't have to sit there and say, I work for MVM or I work for Department of Health and Human Services, whatever the contract's under. They could just take their badge and flip it over and be like, don't talk to me. So
Mm,
how are you ever going to get to the bottom of it when a company that doesn't have an obligation to hand over their records is the one that
right.
is handling stuff like this? And I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because you think like I'm so used to the state of Florida where the phrase is everything under the sun is public record. So you've got to give it up. You've got to answer questions, that kind of stuff. Like unless it's something like integrity of an investigation that's ongoing. But otherwise, yeah, we got to give it up. Yeah, they don't play by the same rules specifically. So until there's some sort of but I don't think because they do the dirty work they're not gonna the rules aren't gonna get made.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole like moving kids goes all the way back to President Obama, kids in cages, and that was the
Yeah,
fix. Was like, hey, we can use these PMCs, but dude, it was such a small number of individuals that were going through it that it exploded under Biden. Like it just absolutely exploded. And now what
yeah,
you're seeing is, I think what you're seeing is kind of the remnants of these contracts where the jobs are still posted, the contracts are still being paid, but they're not
uh,
moving nearly as many kids as they were. I mean, they were 300,000 kids over the course of 4 years. I don't know what that comes out to, but that's insane. And the number of kids they lost would fill up the Denver Broncos football stadium.
yeah, stadium, yeah,
Like
73,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
still mind blown and I can't believe like where they're all going and stuff like that. Um, so I mean, like, what is the media kind of, getting into this kind of stuff, or is just there's just so much going on that they just can't even like lock in on it or hone in on it to even bring any of this to light.
So the New York Post actually did an article on it after I kept goading them. I kept poking them with a stick. Like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah,
I've given you all the evidence. So the New York Post put something on it. It lasted about half a day, and then now it's buried somewhere in the bottom. I think a lot of the media doesn't want to sit there and look at the policy that they ignored with the border and say, oh, and by the way, all these atrocities were also happening with it. So
right.
nobody wants to touch it for the most part from a media standpoint. And even now that it's going through the Senate and you hear like Grassley's talking about it, God, that guy's old, but he's still smart.
Yeah,
Um, like you get bits and pieces of it, but nobody's picking up these stories. Like, hey, there's still 70,000 kids that are gone. Like the mainstream media refuses to pick it up, and I think it's willful blindness at this point because when your preferred politician is in power, you don't want to make them look bad. I
right.
was dude, same reason why nobody said Joe Biden was old. I was like, dude, this guy reminds me of my grandma when she was getting
Y-
dementia. Like, dude, this is just how
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Um,
you have over half of the country, no matter what political lines you draw, that can look at it and recognize a family member and go, oh, I know exactly what's going on with this. Like I don't have to be a doctor or psychologist to understand the neurological problems that this person's going through. Not their fault, but also not somebody that we want in the most powerful job in the country. Um, running the military or essentially, um, you know,
we're running
we
it
don't want
all.
that.
We don't
Yeah.
we don't even want to see
Or,
the
or just
job.
running. Yeah, we're riding a
Yeah.
bike. We don't want any of that stuff. So yeah. Oh man. Um, what is it? Well, I'm just looking at one of the questions I had. Uh, just like what's like all right, so yeah, what I write. What's one a major shift that you'd like to see in like how society and the media and the policy? This is back towards like the use of force stuff. Um, yeah, we don't have to go into it. Whether police or military or private actors to help shift from reactive violence towards like responsible engagement. So like if we're going to get back into kind of use of force type stuff, like what would you like to see changed in some of that stuff?
Dude, I mean, it all comes down to if your foreign policy doesn't have the balls to put boots on the ground with soldiers, you shouldn't be putting private military contractors there. I just
Right.
think that we're putting ourselves in a very precarious position. So the Blackwater guys got hanged off the bridge. The
Yeah.
Marines went in to take Fallujah because George W. Bush is like, I'm not being the Black Hawk Down president. So they
Yeah.
go in, they start taking Fallujah. they pull back, and then they went into Fallujah again in November 2004, I believe, late October, early November. And you have these Marines that went in there and they fought and dude, like absolute kicked ass, but Marines died. So
Hmm.
that shows you that if you put these civilians into harm's way, it can change your entire war policy or your foreign policy. And I just think I think that fighting by proxy is probably not the best way to go. All right. We have PMCs in Ukraine. We have the dude literally everywhere in the world there's a private military contractor. And we're not the only ones doing it, right? China does it really well.
Yeah. Russia. Yeah.
Russia's got, Wagner,
Wagner. Yeah.
Wagner,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, but if you don't want to put boots on the ground, I don't think you should put a U.S. passport holder on the ground because something's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then
what do you
it
do?
comes back. It
Yeah,
could come back to you, and then you're just you've got most of them have family back here, and then they're looking for what was the purpose, what did it serve? But and I think kind of like what you're saying, like it goes to the if you can't commit fully to the situation, then don't half-ass it
yeah.
because you're gonna create just as many problems as if you commit fully to it. And there's just a lot that I think that these politicians and these power brokers and all this kind of stuff that they want to see get done, that they just don't want to deal with the red tape, with the media, the liability, the questioning and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we're seeing it so much in Minnesota, and as a police officer, it's kind of ridiculous towards me or to me because I'm like, I look at it as we have like TFOs in law enforcement that are city cops. They get assigned to these federal agencies. And so it brings the state power, the city power, like to the federal power. And then they can join up and they make a good team. And you've got different laws that you can enforce for different things. But then you also have a different set of experience because you've got guys that are in these federal agencies that through COVID just probably couldn't do jack, and through the last administration couldn't do jack, and now they're called out and they're basically told like weapons free, like let's go guys, like we've got to, I need 3,000 arrests a day, for deportations and that kind of stuff. So you've got like this switch. So it's like, all right, what training do they have, all that. Whereas if you had local officers attached to them, those guys are the guys that have been doing it on a daily basis for years. And then the other thing of like, when these protests are happening and ICE is driving through and they're getting blocked, if you've got state officers that are at least sort of protecting them or buffering them, they can enforce state laws and prevent some of this erratic driving. You can't park your car in the middle of the freaking road, like without lights. You just can't. And now these guys are like doing full blown like stops. I'm sitting here putting my hands outside the camera. They're doing full blown stops in front of the stop in a caravan. Like you take it back to Iraq, like those cars would have been blown away probably, right?
Oh yeah, no, we would have smashed right through that piece.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if private military contractors were going to get pulled into the whole border patrol thing because we did it in Louisiana after Katrina.
Okay.
Blackwater actually went down there and they were like clearing buildings and they were working in a law enforcement capacity, pseudo law
Wow.
enforcement capacity.
Yeah.
They're not. They're actually bringing in like the border patrol guys. They're backfilling. I guarantee this because it happened during the riots in 2020. They're backfilling these federal jobs with contractors. So
Oh,
I
okay.
can take people off of the border and I can put them up in Minnesota, and then my backfill is going to be private military contractors.
Down on the
Or
border.
yeah, or like every federal courthouse has federal law enforcement, so I can take them out, and then I can say, "Hey, Constellus, can you fill this role?" And Constellus can absolutely
Right.
fill that role. So it
Yeah.
it it does allow for a little bit of lift and shift. But from what I've been told, and what I can find online is that the private military contractors that help bring in all these migrants are now getting the contracts to keep them in detention facilities and then
Mm.
send them back down. So like, dude, it's like I keep saying, it's a self-licking ice cream cone. Like
Yeah.
literally, you can do it for any any political party that's in power, you have a role in it. And I think that's kind of weird. Because when I got overseas, I was like, dude, this is gonna last 2 years
Hmm.
max. Make your money and get out. And that's all we talked about. That's all we talked about. Is like, make your cheddar, let's go. And then as we like it lasted 7 years, 10 years, 15 years with Afghanistan, and it turned into a career. So I just think somebody made a conscious decision at the State Department, DHS, you name it, that says, I don't want to pay to train these people to go through this process, right? How much does it cost? 60, 80,
Yeah.
120,000 bucks. I'd rather
Yeah.
just bring these dudes in because it's cheaper and it's faster. And then you end up having incidents where it's like, who the hell authorized that?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It's they say that like even just for a local police officer, it's like over $100,000 just to put us through the academy, uniform us, get us ready and stuff. Whereas if you can pay that for a couple guys from private military contractors. So yeah, wow. Um,
No
and then there,
benefits. You don't have to give them medical. You don't have to give them dental. Like
yeah, I
it, dude.
mean,
There's a
It's
place for it.
essentially it's essentially one of the things that I'm looking at doing. Like my agency that I used to work for is the Florida Panthers, the hockey team. So we're the we're the police department that runs that arena or that does that arena. So you can only be a reserve police officer with the city and work at the arena. So I'm like, I gotta wait like 6 months. They make you do like a cooling off period or something. And you just get rehired, but you have no benefits, you have no union, you have no nothing, you don't make arrests, but you're still a certified law enforcement officer. But I'm like, but it's literally just for the money. It's just,
Yeah.
it's hey, I want to get $52 an hour and stand at a post for 6 hours during a game and go home at the end of the night. And then there's a uniformed police officer sitting there. For me, it's not bad. I'm 43, so I look like a real police officer. But I mean, we got guys in their 70s that are sitting there working, and it's like, those guys aren't mixing it up, the same way a 20-year-old kid working the normal detail that worked road patrol earlier in the day. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be kind of like a private police force, or
Which,
like a PMC.
dude, the last thing I was like, I'm not
Yeah,
going to
not
be
bashing
evil.
it.
Go get your money. Like,
Yeah,
do it. Go get your
yeah,
adventure. Go get your money. Honestly,
yeah,
it's like some of the funniest things that have ever happened to me in my life happened, and I put them in the book.
yeah,
And the most harrowing, like get your adventure and go do that, but make sure that like you have a goal in mind. So I got a buddy, he actually is a cop in Texas, and I don't know, he works with police department, and he'd be like, hey, I'm going to go take a pump over the seas for 3 months. He'd go do a contract, he'd come back, they put him back on the force. Um, like if you want to be a cop and you want to get into the game, just make sure you have something when you get home, because dude, there's nothing. Your paycheck ends the day you leave. All your
yeah,
buddies are still overseas. You want to keep going back over there and seeing them. Like, yeah, you could die, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty easy life. Somebody's doing your laundry. Somebody's like feeding you every day. Like, it's not a bad gig.
yeah.
But when you come
But
home and you don't have that gig,
it could be an addiction where you
oh
got to
yeah,
fill that, you got to scratch that itch again. And it's like, you're back working for an agency. So, and then depending on if they end your employment or how they do that, agencies may end up start talking and you may burn all your bridges back here if you go and do that. What other, yeah, kind of made me think about it. Like what other kind of advice would you have for somebody going into that or going into that life, maybe getting out of the military, like as they're getting out of the military and they're just kind of trying to figure out what they want to do and they want to kind of stick with it for a little bit, but they're done with the whole military side of it.
yeah.
Like what kind of
Everything
advice
you
would you?
own should be pink. That's just how it should go. It should be pink or rainbow colored.
Okay.
And like if you've ever deployed in the military, you know that your stuff just walks off.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what's never walked off in my life. I've never had a pink towel walk off, or a pink toothbrush holder, or pink soap holder, or any of that other stuff. Nobody steals pink. So if you're going to go overseas, make sure all your crap is pink. The
Solid.
other probably more important, maybe a little bit. Oh, get a good pillow too. But more
Oh
important,
yeah.
set a goal. Like
Yeah.
when I went over there, I came home after my first contract and I blew all my money, so I had to go back. There was
Yeah.
no option. And a lot of these PMCs do that. That 70-year-old cop that's in that, like, dude, we have that in the PMC world. Guys that I worked with in Blackwater were in Gaza 27 years
Uh-huh.
later, and I was like, oh, dude, you were old back then. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, so set a goal. Maybe it's pay off my house, pay for college, get my kids college funds. Like, come up with something where you can say, okay, now I've made that goal, and now I can choose to go back, and I don't have to go back. And that's a huge difference. And it's just a mindset difference. But I can't tell you how many people, they come back and be like, dude, I bought a Land Rover. I mean, I bought a Land Rover, so it's me.
Yeah.
And then I come back and they're like, what are you doing back here after 3 days? And it's like, oh, I blew all my money. Um,
Yeah.
and dude, your bills don't stop, right? So if you
Right.
start getting flush with cash, don't buy an $8 million house because you still got to pay taxes and mortgage and all that stuff. And dude,
Yeah.
it's just a hard life. You don't make money unless you're on the ground. So your
Yeah.
wife doesn't have anything in your bank account unless you have boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And like, I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, my wife is divorcing me and she took all my money and now I have to you just have to be smart about it, man. And you have
Yeah.
to look at it like it's short term. If it turns long term, great. But short term, 2 to 3 years max, and then you can sit there and go, oh, I really like this. And I hate I hate being at home. Keep going back. But
You think there's guys that make, well, obviously you said there's guys that's in Gaza, but you think there's guys that make like careers out of the whole thing?
unintentionally, I
Oh,
think,
okay.
because what I got
By some of
there,
those flaws that you said. Yeah.
yeah, like it was shocking how many people were just like blowing every penny that they had. And then, my accountant screwed me over, my wife screwed me over. I mean, maybe that's another thing. Like, it's your money, make sure you track it. Like, you should
Yeah.
know every dollar in, every dollar out. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that are still in that world where I'm like, you just didn't save anything. And you've been at it for
Yeah.
20 years. Like, how the hell? Like, I'm glad you got some really cool Harley Davidsons, but
Yeah.
is that really how you want to live? Like, it
Yeah.
sucks.
Wow. All right. So you have that book that's behind you, really big book, and then you have two books, right?
Well, so I wrote Welcome to Blackwater as my initial book, and then there was a saga. Blackwater got mad at me, threatened to sue me, make my kids homeless, blah
Eee.
blah blah. Yeah, so
Typical stuff.
yeah, I re-released it. So this is the same book, but I added a bunch of content. Like, there was the guy that he was a cop in Indianapolis, and he was a recon Marine, really cool dude. Turns out he lied about all that stuff, and now he's spending 7 years in jail. Like I was saying, like the funk fakers, the guys that come in and you're like, holy crap, how'd he get through? Like, he's one of them.
So is he in jail for that, for like a stolen valor type thing, like saying he
No,
did
this is
that,
this is
or
awesome.
just he made other mistakes?
So he worked for Blackwater. Blackwater never checked his DD 214.
Okay.
So if you get out, you get a DD 214 that says this is all the crap I did in the military. They never
Right.
checked that. And he said he was a recon Marine. He actually got up to where he was like a site leader in Baghdad. So like, he ran up the chain at Blackwater, and then he got done, started working for like one of the royal families overseas. And then he got hooked in with this guy named Mike Gogan, and New York Magazine did a big thing on it.
I've heard that. I feel like
He
I've heard the
essentially was
name.
like, hey, he's the guy, dude, they drug his name through the mud, but he essentially was like, hey, Mike Gogan, you're worth billions of dollars. I used to work for the CIA, and we need like this black ops money. And if you could fund it, then we don't have to go through the government. And I'm going to go like rescue this little girl, and I'm going to go find these DEA agents and all this stuff. Um, Turns out he was just taking it down to your hood in Florida and blowing all the money on vacations and stuff and having it like a second family. So he built this guy out of like $3.5 million, and
Holy shit.
finally caught up to him. But dude, the lies he was telling, like, he was
Yeah.
the guy that was holding the laser for the Zarqawi bombing in Baghdad, and
Uh-huh.
like he worked for the CIA, was in Syria and got captured, and he had to fight his way out. Like
Yeah.
these are all those things that if you met him and he was building off of these stories, you'd believe it all day. Because, dude, I totally believe the guy.
Yeah, yeah. Catch
And
Me If You
then,
Can, Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio, fraudster, just just smooth.
Anna Delvey. Oh, dude, yeah, so
Yeah.
good.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah,
Oh
dude, it
man.
was. I mean, it's a weird world. I will say, it is probably like nothing. Like the people you meet are the weirdest motherfuckers on the planet, but they're also pretty. Most of them are pretty good dudes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they say you say mercenaries, you know, I mean that's essentially a pirate. So a pirate ship full of was always full of you know, interesting folks, sometimes guys that are running away from their real life, you know, getting away from something, you know, and going off on adventure. So that's a lot of times what real pirates, not Somali pirates, but
And
um
here's, dude, the worst kept secret in the special operations community is that they love prostitutes. They freaking love them,
yeah.
man. Like, dude, I can't tell you how many stories. I mean, there's a lot of, my wife was like, "Oh my God, you do another prostitute story?" It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's all we talked about.
Yeah.
But dude, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go through Amsterdam and I'm gonna go through the Philippines and and then you come back and be like, dude, how was it? And dude, the best part about prostitute stories is you never hear the good ones. You
Yeah,
hear the
yeah, yeah.
bad ones that are so good that you just will never forget them. Like there was a
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure nobody wants to hear just like a nice love story. Like, you know, that's not what dudes tell. You know, they're gonna tell
yeah.
that story. So even the Secret Service loves prostitutes, like in
Oh,
Colombia.
I mean, apparently you go overseas and that's what you search out.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's isn't it pretty much legal everywhere except for the United States?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can find it even. So, I mean, I'll tell you one of them right now. So I flew into Jordan, and there was a couple of guys that I knew. So we go into Jordan, and we're sitting there, and we're getting checked in at this hotel, and this guy's like, "I'm gonna go get a massage." Like he sounded like a pirate, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah,
yeah.
like that sounds good. Like it's been 6 months. I'm kind of tight." And the other guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a massage too." So,
Yeah.
like I was like, "Fuck it, dude." So I called the front desk and I was like, "Yeah, I'll get a massage." So we're having dinner that night, and my buddy's like, "How was your massage?" And I was like, "Good. She kind of worked this spot out in the back, yeah." And he's like, "She gave me a hand job before she gave you a massage." And I was like, "Oh, dude, come on." And the other guy's like, "I fucked her." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Really? Like this was a hooker thing? I had no, I like I'm pretty
This I had no
naive at
idea.
this point." It's like, and
Yeah.
so the guy's like, "So when you were fucking her, did you look at her right hand? Because she just gave me a hand job before that."
It's fucked,
It's just,
man.
oh, dude, it was like
Yeah.
the
Her hand
funniest
was extra
stuff.
soft. Yeah.
Yeah, there was lots of oil on that.
Fucking A. Oh man.
Um,
So yeah, all right, great stories. I mean, like, I mean, we could probably wrap it up. I mean, I'm sure we could talk forever. I gotta let my dogs out, so I might as well see it as a good place to end it on a prostitution story.
well,
Um, but yeah, I mean, anything else you want to add? Like any more or
yeah,
you
no,
know,
I mean,
anything that you want to tell the people that are watching that are still hanging around?
yeah, check out the book for sure. You can track me down on Instagram and TikTok and X at Blackwater Dude One because I'm
Yeah.
who's that guy? He's the Blackwater Dude with a number one because apparently I had to put a one on
The
it.
only one. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And then, I mean, if you were a PMC, reach out because there is a benefit that most people don't know about called the Defense Base Act. So if you spent time overseas with Triple Canopy, Blackwater, those, reach out. I'll get you hooked up with the lawyers that I used. But yeah, other than that,
Cool.
dude, you're on your own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's good that there's at least something that could potentially help somebody out, you know, after the fact and stuff. Because I'm sure there's, you know, kind of like you know the guys that spend the money and stuff like that. There's people struggling for sure, um, with all kinds of stuff,
Oh yeah, no,
especially,
you don't get to
especially,
go to the VA for your Blackwater time. So,
no
but
doubt.
I'll
Yeah.
hook you up.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. So that's good. So I'll put that stuff. You know, I'll put your links and stuff down in the description so people can you know see them and get to them quicker. And cool, man. So stick around. We'll make sure everything gets uploaded. And then thank you very much for reaching out and coming on the show, man. I appreciate it. It's awesome stories and mind blown for sure. So
Thanks for having me, Justin, dude.
yeah.
You're awesome.
All right, man. I'll hit this.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.